A few weeks ago, I purchased the 2025 Apple Mac Studio with the M4 Max chip, and I'm absolutely delighted with my purchase. But when I bought it, I was unaware that there is a design flaw with the Mac Studio. Underneath the Mac Studio, you'll see this sexy grille, this kind of mesh area at the bottom. And that's not just there for design. Inside, there's actually some fans. So that grille at the bottom is an intake. So cold air is allowed into the system. The fans will cool everything down. And then you've got hot air, and that is exhausted out the back of the computer. If you've ever built a PC before, you'll know how this all works. It's quite simple. Cold air in, hot air out. Now, the problem is that when cold air is going into the system at the base, it also brings in a lot of dust. Now, my computer's new. I don't seem to have an issue with this as yet. But if you look online, if you look on YouTube, and if you look at a lot of discussions on Reddit, you'll see a lot of people that, after a few months of having a Mac Studio, their Apple Mac Studio starts to have thermal problems. There's a lot of dust gathering. Now, it's quite easy to clean the outside of the Mac Studio and remove excess dust. It's a lot harder if that dust gets into the inside of the computer. And that was my concern. Now, the Mac Mini, the new Mac Mini, has a similar design, but I'm not sure it's as big a problem. It seems to be a Mac Studio problem, maybe because of how much air is going into it. It is a bigger computer after all. The good news about all of this is that it's a relatively easy thing to fix. Now, Spigen have an air filter. I'm sure you're all aware of Spigen. I've bought lots of their phone cases in the past. It's a brand that I do like. They have an air filter that captures all that dust and it prevents it from going into your system. The problem with that dust filter is that it retails at $70, and here in the UK it's about £45–50. Now, I'm sure it's a great solution, and if my circumstances change, I may end up buying it. But when I saw it for the first time, I did think £45–50 for a plastic stand with a dust filter. It seems incredibly overpriced. So I looked for a cheaper alternative on Amazon, and I found a generic option, which is £10. It's available in clear or black, and it will work with all of the Mac Studios up until 2025 and older Mac Minis up to the 2023 version. So it's versatile, works with a lot of different products, and I'm happy with the purchase. Quite a simple product. It's just a clear plastic base for the Mac Studio. It has an integrated sponge dust filter, and there's also a spare dust filter in there as well. It only takes a few seconds to set up. All you have to do is lift up the Mac Studio, slide the stand underneath, and then set the Mac Studio on top of the stand. And just make sure that the Mac Studio sits flush with the stand. That's all there is to it. It really is that easy. Now, from a design perspective, it obviously doesn't look as good as the Mac Studio does itself. We now have a stand underneath. But I think it looks okay. And the most important thing here is that it's going to prevent dust going into the system. Now, at this stage, does it prevent dust? Well, I don't know. I've only had it installed for a couple of days or so. It seems to be doing the job. I have been monitoring the thermals and looking at the CPU temperature, etc., and it looks exactly the same as it did before. I'm not seeing any spikes. I'm not seeing any difference with the CPU temperature. So it looks okay. The real test will be checking this in a few months and just checking if there's any dust in the system. It does look like the way that it's set up, that sponge filter is going to prevent dust from getting in, and it does seem to be allowing cold air to still get into the system. So I haven't tested any alternatives, but to me this looks like a good cheap solution to solve that problem of dust potentially going into your Mac Studio or your older Mac Mini. So I'll leave a link to the one that I bought, but I'll leave a link to the Spigen one as well. You might want to pay a little bit extra, especially if you spent a lot of money in your Mac Studio. If you went for a top model, you might want to just spend the extra money and go for a brand name. But I'm happy with the cheaper alternative that I've purchased so far. It looks like it's doing the job, and yeah, you might want to check it out yourself. So thanks for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, please do post a comment below. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. And until next time, take care.